The Delian Tomb is being tested by patrons, the layout for the core rules is nearing completion, and an adventure to run at conventions is in the works. Also, the dice from the crowdfunder is shipping, and Flee Mortals and Where Evil Lives is out on Foundry. I'm John Denor, and this is Goblin Points. The Delian Tomb adventure is coming along and has been published on Patreon for patrons to test. MCDM has also sent out the feedback survey for the adventure, so if you're a paying MCDM patron, you can download the adventure and send the survey to whomever plays in your game. As before, they don't have to be patrons to answer the survey. In addition to the adventures they're already working on, MCDM is also working on what they call a Conventure. This adventure is made for people to run at conventions and game stores. The intention is to make it a good adventure to run when the director is already familiar with the game, but the players are not. The exact setting you'd be confronted with when running at a games convention or for a random group of people at a game store. They hope to make the adventure design modular so that it's possible to adjust the length of the adventure based on how much time you have available to run. I imagine a really simple way to do this would be to only include certain rooms of a dungeon when you've got the time, or you could move where the key to the door is. Instead of it being at the end of a dedicated offshoot of the dungeon, it could be in the critical path of the heroes that they're already heading down. There's no release date set for the Conventure yet, but the way they're talking about it, it sounds like they want it to be ready quite soon after release. April 1st rolled around, and while the web has toned down the most ridiculous of pranks, Willie had a great one for patrons. On April 1st, he dropped a new ancestry, the Clounns, spelled Clounn. These are not people dressed up as clowns, they're real clowns. The ancestry comes with some great purchase traits, like tough skin, because you're used to having insults thrown at you all the time, and He Who Knows Joy, which lets you or your allies squeeze your red bulbous nose to make a saving throw. In addition to the ancestry, there was also a kit called Political Statement, which comes with the signature ability Pie Throw, which, will not surprise you, lets you throw pies at your foes. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but they become both taunted and embarrassed. And finally, the options include a new subclass for the Troubadour, the Fool. If you're into making fools of your enemies, this is the subclass for you. Also at the beginning of the month, Matt wrote a big post on Patreon on how they want to design warfare for Djordice. While they like the design they did for 5e, they don't like the fact that you end up playing a completely different game when transitioning into warfare. The redesigned system looks to much better integrate the warfare system with the rest of the game. They've mostly shared their initial thinking on what they want the warfare system to achieve and how it should feel. The main goal is not to move away from the individual heroes, but stay with them as they make moves to change the outcome of the war. If you're not on Patreon, I recommend the Dice Society's latest episode, episode 17, which covers the current ideas for the warfare system in more detail than I do here. Link to the episode is in the links section. MCDM has started receiving prototypes of the layout of the core rules, and Matt showed off some of it on stream. The design is very minimalist, especially in comparison to how TTRPG books usually look. There's not much color, apart from the explicit art. It's white pages with black text and very clear headers. It certainly lives up to Matt's wish for it to be an easily legible reference manual more than a book of prose. The design isn't 100% final, but it sounded like that it was very close to something they're happy with. Now that they know how much space they have for the text, Matt's gone through and made sure that there's not too much text for any of the ancestries. In addition to that, he's also rewritten the orc and dwarf ancestries completely. They were written very early in the draw steel design process, before the ancestry sections told a cohesive story. They were sticking out like a sore thumb, and have now been changed to continue the story told in the other ancestry write-ups. After the release, MCDM wants to show that they're serious about Draw Steel being a flagship TTRPG. That's why they're already working on new player options, adventures, and director supplements. In addition to the 2 new classes, the Summoner and the Beastheart, and the new adventures, the Conventure, the Delian Tomb, and the Fall of Blackbottom, they're also working on 2 new books. One of the books is a smaller with ancestries only. It might be something like 16 ancestries with a full write-up, purchase traits, art, info about the ancestry, and maybe something unique to the ancestry, like a title or example NPCs. Then, there's the Encounters book. This is a bigger director supplement with lots of tools for directors. It'll include pre-generated NPCs with negotiation stats to easily drop them in if you need a noble or a merchant for the players to interact with. Pre-made montage tests for common scenarios, for example, escaping a city or navigating a desert or other similar challenges. They also want to expand on the combat types mentioned in the core rules, where combat encounters can have other end goals than just defeating all the monsters. The book will include example combats where the combat is also a challenge or a puzzle that needs to be figured out to win the combat. And lastly, it'll include delves. These are short dungeons that'll basically fit on a 2-page spread. They're meant to be a bit generic, to be easily dropped in anywhere while playing. So, if you, as a director, need something to occupy the heroes for a little while, a delve is something you can just drop in without basically any prep. The design team at MCDM were all at the office in April, and while they were there, they also invited Dale Kingsmill. They sat down to play through an abbreviated version of the Delian Tomb run by James. They ended up recording 18 hours of game footage, and the plan is to edit that down to something watchable and publish it near the release of the game. The developers of the Codex commented on platform support. They said that Macs aren't very popular gaming machines, but they're pretty common among TTRPG players. They see Mac as an important platform to support with the Codex. They also have a desire to support Linux, but that's not a priority at first. Metamorphic Studios dropped what they call the Monstrous Bundle on the official Foundry store this month. The Monstrous Bundle is a Flea Mortals and Where Evil Lives bundle, where all the monsters and lairs have been implemented in Foundry. The dungeons from Where Evil Lives even include the monsters prepared and hints about the traps and secrets for each room, right on the map. It's supposed to be ready to go without any prep. Even if you have any previous versions of Flea Mortals or Where Evil Lives, you still need to purchase them anew for Foundry. You can't redeem your PDF book or D&D Beyond purchase for a free or a discounted version on Foundry. The Djordice has begun shipping. People in North America have already started receiving their orders. The orders going to Australia have been shipped for distribution. They're all being sent in a single shipment from the US and then distributed from a central location in Australia, if there even is such a thing. Anyway, the shipments to Europe have been a bit delayed. We haven't gotten any updates when we can expect the dice over here too. If you want something a bit more custom than the dice provided in the Djordice crowdfunder, Ron from the community has made multiple draw steel commissions, among them a really nice set for the Dice Society. I've put a link to Ron's Blue Sky profile where you can DM them for details. Time to bring some highlights from the community. Because I forgot to highlight this last month, I'm doing it first now. Cal has put together a repository of tools and resources for playing and running Draw Steel. It's of course called Heroic Resources. You can find links to Draw Steel modules for Roll20 and Foundry, alternative character sheets, director and player tools, and actual plays. Sheomar published The Great Rebirth in March, but it received an update in April, which gives me an excuse to highlight it. The Great Rebirth is a starting adventure for Draw Steel that aims to teach the players the different mechanics of the game at a good pace. It's available for purchase on Drive-Thru RPG. Jeff Steven Games has announced they're doing a Draw Steel crowdfunder for a collection of 50 legendary weapons. They say there's going to be color images for each weapon and have put up an example weapon with accompanying art designed by Spencer Hypnick, aka Pesto Enthusiast. You can find the example weapon on the linked landing page for the crowdfunder. The campaign launches in about 2 months. Draw Steel has a very simple approach when it comes to wealth, and if you're looking for something that's a bit more fleshed out without being an actual complete monetary system, I'd encourage a look at Seth Lang, aka Iron Monocle's Wealth Rules editions. They expand on the existing wealth system, but stays compatible, meaning you don't have to do any conversions to the new system. And last but not least, I have to mention the Dice Society, who published a new episode of their podcast. This is the episode I mentioned earlier, which goes more into detail about the ideas for the warfare system for Draw Steel. And he also made a YouTube short about dragons for the annual Monster Week on YouTube. Links to all of these and even more community creations are linked in the link section of the episode. And that's all I have for April. Not much to say other than we're looking forward to the game being released. If you want to be on Goblin Points or know of someone else who should be, leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify or send me an email on tips@goblinpoints.com. Links to the MCDM Discord server, the subreddits for MCDM and Draw Steel, the YouTube channels for Matt and MCDM, the complete link section, and this script is in the show notes. It's also on goblinpoints.com. Next episode is on the 20th. This time, I'm joined by Paul Ligorsky, aka Heart of Arcana. He's published multiple adventures, both for other games and for Draw Steel. Paying patrons have been able to suggest questions for me to ask. By joining, you get to submit questions for my next guest. See you next time. Snakkes.